All right. So people are always asking me the question, where do I go next? So whether it be selling off Amazon or looking on Amazon into other marketplaces. So I have someone on here today. We're going to talk about both on and off Amazon going south of the border, so to speak. So there's a whole world of people from Mexico down to, blanking here on my geography of what the southern tip of South America is. But to talk about all that opportunity, we got Aleksejs Leal, who we also know as Alex. So Alex, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So Alex, if you don't mind just sharing with people a little bit of your background in e-commerce in general, and then we can take the conversation more south of the border.
Sure. Well, I start selling in e-commerce in general, like about almost 8 years ago. We start with our own website. So we're selling vitamins and supplements. And we decided to diversify and expand into marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Rakuten at that time. It was good. Groupon. So we were doing really well. And we've been selling, like increasing our sales dramatically. And what happened is one of our Amazon account got suspended. So, and that put us in a little bit tough position because about 80% of our sales were just from Amazon. So thanks God, we will be able to open another account. But with that said, we decided to diversify even more, not only within the country, but try to go any other countries that we can basically secure a little bit more our revenues. So we were finding information about the Taobao, which is in China, but at that time it was the language barrier, the time zone barrier, so it was kind of not at the time. It wasn't the right time for that. So we also look into Europe. There was some marketplace in Europe. And then we come across the Mercado Libre, which is the biggest South America marketplace. And we start with Colombia. They are in the 13 different countries. But we start in Colombia because we had some clients buying supplements from us in Colombia. So it was kind of easier to start there. And so we did Colombia, we do Mexico. We also planning to do Panama because the Panama, thanks God, there is a dollar currency. So that's why we're trying to avoid a little bit the each country currency, because it's one of the biggest challenges when you start selling into those countries, in South America. So,
gotcha. Now, is it a big challenge just because the exchange rates are more likely to fluctuate?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because Canadian dollar, British pound, I mean, when they fluctuate, it's relatively like ripples, whereas you're talking about like it could be huge waves, right?
20%, 30% lately.
Right.
With this whole coronavirus thing. It was 30%, 15% in Argentina, Brazil. They had like a 40%, 50% drop. So it can hurt your business really bad if you don't have solid and healthy margin. It's very important. So that's why we're trying to look into Panama, also Costa Rica, and the other that only have something happened with my video, no?
Yeah, that's okay. You can while you're fixing your video feed there, basically, let's chat a little bit about what is the opportunity. So I know you said that lately some of the currency. Oh, there you are again. You had said that the currency is fluctuating. So other than the challenge of currency fluctuations, what's the reason somebody would even want to go south of the border to some of these other places?
Well, the main reason why we liked the South America, because believe it or not, the market is growing a lot, because a lot of people getting more into e-commerce and getting more into buying online. very behind still.
Right.
But they are in that stage of growing. You know, it's like going back 10 years ago here in States, you know, that everybody, the e-commerce exists, but not a lot of people still buying it. They're still going to a retail store. They're still, you know, not confident on buying online. So that's where South America is. You know, it's in that stage. Not even a lot of people have a credit card to buy online, you know?
Oh, okay.
So, and with that said, there's still sales going on, and it's gonna grow once it hits that confident, customer confident on buying online. It's gonna skyrocket.
Gotcha. Are you seeing more people buying online because of the pandemic, like people being locked down, so they're having to buy more stuff because they can't go to stores? Okay, so you're seeing that there too. So that's interesting.
Yes. So that's also gonna. I know it's a bad situation with the coronavirus, but it's pushing people to buy online. You know, they have to, because they cannot go outside, and it's a curfew. A lot of stores are closed, but the online stores are active. Mercado Libre is active, and people are buying more and more online. So it's gonna bring more confidence.
Okay, gotcha.
It's gonna change a lot of way people think in South America about online buying.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So all right, so let's talk a little bit about this. So I know you're in Amazon Mexico, and I get a lot of questions about Amazon Mexico. So we'll talk a little bit about Amazon Mexico before we get into more Mercado Libre and what that even is. So I know a lot of people listening to this are familiar with Amazon Mexico, and they're curious about getting started there. It's one, to be honest, I've kind of backed off on because it seems like there's a lot of I don't even know the word I'm looking for. Unknowns. Yeah. Scary things, things to consider. It doesn't flow the same. And one thing I will say in general is, you know, if you're selling in Canada or the UK, it's all based on English common law, just like the US is for the most part. So the government things flow the same. The cultures are similar. The language is the same. Whereas Mexico doesn't seem to be quite the same. Maybe it's based a little bit more on Spain's laws, and Spain is like a whole different world within Europe. Spain has nothing to do with like how
you can somehow
historically how their laws work.
Yeah, you can somehow relate to other South American countries. Mexico with Colombia, Colombia with Panama, Panama with, I don't know, Argentina. They kind of, but Spain is Europe, so it have nothing to do with the language.
Gotcha.
It is
there's
similar,
no,
but the laws are no.
Okay, gotcha. So there's no like kind of carryover like here there is in the U.S. with like how we used to be part of England, and the laws still kind of flow the same. Okay, fair point. So okay, well, let's talk a little bit about how do you get started in Mexico, and I'm sure that'll probably take us into the conversation of then outside of at least you have that kind of warm protection, so to speak, of understanding Amazon. Because if you understand Amazon in the U.S., although it's different, Amazon in Mexico, at least mechanically, is the same, but it's just understanding how to get stuff there. So let's talk about how we get stuff into Mexico.
So there's two things that you need to have before you get into that any South America country. One is logistics, how to import the products. You need to find a company that can do the job for you. That's a number one. And also a lawyer that can help you with taxes and the whole company and all that in that country. If you're gonna have a company inside the country.
Okay, so are you suggesting
in my case I have to do it. In my case I have to do it that way because my company, because I sell supplements, and supplements require a special permit, which is coffee freeze in Mexico. So, and to get that permit, I need to have a company in Mexico.
Got it. Okay.
Right? So, and by having company in Mexico, I have a bank account. It's basically an entity over there. And all that was done by the lawyers. You know, they opened the company for me. They opened the bank account. They got all the papers that I need in order to basically operate over there.
All right. So now you've set up a company in this other country. If I'm selling something like a water bottle, as I understand, I need to have an RFC ID, which requires in the
Yes.
country. But
RFC,
do
it's
I?
like a tax ID number.
Right. So it's kind of like the EIN, the employer
Yes.
identification number, is in the U.S.
Correct.
So, in order to sell there, do I need to set up a company in Mexico? In your experience?
If you just gonna sell the water bottle, you do not. You do
Okay.
not. But you do need to get the RFC number.
Okay.
Which is basically gonna, in order to, if you want to sell fulfilled by merchant, you can just put fulfilled by merchant, and you don't need the RFC number.
Okay.
Now you want to send your inventory cross-border, then you need the RFC number.
Gotcha. And when you're saying fulfilled by merchant, you mean sending it from the U.S. when someone buys in Mexico, as
Correct.
opposed to having a third-party logistics warehouse in Mexico that sends it to the customer. Because either way, if it's going across the border, whether it's FBA or a 3PL in Mexico, you would need the RFC ID number. Okay.
Correct.
So you recommend getting a lawyer to help you with that. So I'm assuming a lawyer within the country. Is it difficult to set up? Is it similar to an LLC in the US?
Yes. It takes time. It's not like here in the US that you just open a company in there in 24 hours.
You're ready to go.
Hours.
Yeah.
Exactly. It takes a little more time. They do some due diligence. You need to have some sort of a background. But lawyers will explain it to you. You know, it's
okay.
They know their laws, and they know how to basically work.
Okay.
Make it happen.
Gotcha. Okay. Ballpark. I know, because a lot of people listening to this would say, okay, what does it cost to set up a company in, let's say, Mexico? Roughly about
$2,000 to $3,000.
Okay. Gotcha. So about $3,000.
Everything ready and set.
Okay. And then what are your tax obligations ongoing? Because oftentimes I'm suggesting people keep your US based company. So you're usually paying sales tax to the local country and then income tax to Uncle Sam here in the US or wherever you live. What does it involve if you have a company set up in Mexico?
So if you have a company set up in Mexico, then you totally have to follow the laws, you know. You have to pay IVA, which is like a sales tax that they have.
Okay.
You pay IVA when you import the goods.
Okay.
That's in, I think, like 18% in Mexico. It varies, depends on the category. And then when you sell the product, you also have to charge the IVA, which is, again, sales tax.
Okay.
That IVA, when you import, the percentage that you import, just to give you a number, you imported $100. The IVA is 10%. So you're paying 10% up front. Now you're selling that product for $200 and you have to pay 20% IVA, but you already have that credit of $10 that's going to be applied.
Gotcha.
So you don't have to. So when you do the filing, you credit that what you paid when it was import, and then you only pay the difference that was sold. I don't know if I'm clear.
No, I think you're making perfect sense. So just to clarify, that is the IVA tax, is that included in the selling price, or is it added on? You
add on to the same like here. You add on to the selling price.
Oh, gotcha. So it sounds like it operates kind of like Canadian GST, where you're adding it onto the selling price, but you get credits for like what you paid at the border and things like that.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Which makes it easier because you don't have to like factor that into your margins for the selling price itself.
Exactly. The only thing you have to be careful, because once you start importing a lot of goods, you know, it's a lot of money, because you have to pay that money up front. You know?
Right.
So if you're inputting $100,000, it's $10,000 up front that you're not getting until you're basically selling the product, you know?
Right.
So that have to include in your cash flow analysis.
Yeah. So it does create a little bit of risk. However, if you're registered properly, because I'm assuming, at least in Amazon Mexico, it's probably like all the other marketplaces where they only charge the tax if you put your number in there in tax settings.
What do you mean? And
so
to the client, yes.
No. So like, for example, you and I are in Florida. Generally, we have to pay Florida Department of Revenue. I do it monthly, where Amazon is charging the customer, collecting, and giving me the money, and then I file.
Correct.
And they'll only do that if I put my number in there. And it's the same thing in Canada. They'll only charge GST if I put my registration number in there. So is it the same way that Amazon will only charge the sales tax if you put in your registration, your RFC ID in
RFC
Mexico?
number, correct.
Okay. Gotcha. So if you're not doing that, one, you're not compliant, and two, you're not having your customers basically pay you back for your RFC EVA that you paid.
But
when you're
opening the company, I mean, when
Mhm.
you're opening the Amazon account in Mexico, it requires RFC number.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It's
Got
like
it.
tax ID. You already need, when you process of registration in Mexico, you have to put the number.
Yeah, yeah, and I've noticed too, because I've attempted it, where I try to like create a shipment, and it like you can't even like start the shipment without your RFC ID.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's definitely something to think about. Now, I've heard stories of people using freight forwarders that will let them use their RFC ID. I don't know how compliant that is, so it's probably one of those things you probably want to talk to the lawyer, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. You don't want to. Again, it's international laws, and you need to have lawyers on your side. And again, the lawyers, comparing to lawyers here, it's not as expensive. You know, we are very used to lawyers here that are extremely expensive, and we're kind of trying to avoid them at all costs. But it's not this. It's not the same over there. It's basically, we have our lawyers on a monthly fee. You know, we hire them on a monthly fee, and they basically guide us through the whole process, everything. You know, they
Gotcha.
do our
Are you
taxes,
using?
they do our company, everything.
Okay. Now, do you use the same firm, just out of curiosity, before we get into the rest of Latin America? Do you use the same lawyer for all countries, or do you have a different law firm for each country?
No, each country have its own law firm.
Okay. Gotcha. So that's a lot to keep up with. So it must be a lot of opportunity.
I really prefer that.
Right.
Because again, each country is independent country. And I'm not confident that let's say Mexican lawyer knows really well the Colombian law.
Yeah, that's a good point, because, you know, for people that are maybe selling throughout Europe has, like, even though they're sovereign countries, there's a universal European Union. So within them, everybody has to kind of follow the same rules. But when you're talking about South America, Colombia may have similar rules as Mexico, for example, but they're completely different. They don't. Exactly. One doesn't really care what you did in the other.
They have different EVA number. I mean, the sell tax bracket, everything is different. The way you import the products, it's different. It's different. I mean, again, it's kind of similar, but at the same time, it's different.
Gotcha. So, if you don't mind sharing, like, how would you compare your sales in Mexico to on Amazon to your Amazon US sales, like as a percentage?
As a percentage, I mean, again, US is still more advanced.
Oh, of course.
More, and also, believe it or not, Mercado Libre is stronger marketplace than Amazon in South America. Okay. Amazon is just starting.
Right.
So Mercado Libre, we have very higher sale than Amazon Mexico. Okay.
Now, Amazon Mexico, just to compare to the U.S., clearly the U.S. is like the rainbow unicorn, or whatever you want to call it. It's just something special. So, is your Mexico sales compared to your U.S. sales 2%, 5%, 10%, 20%, like roughly?
I would say 10 to 15%.
Okay, gotcha. So it's comparable to Canada, it sounds like. Okay, gotcha. So that's what a lot of people oftentimes see in Canada. So, looking at your numbers, if you're selling $20,000 a year, maybe it's not worth it to you to go into Mexico and set all this stuff up. But if you're doing $600,000 a year, maybe it is worth looking into Mexico.
Exactly. And my recommendations is if you want to go into markets like South America, the way to start is to start company that is global recognized.
Okay.
I don't know if you understand what I mean by that.
Please dive into that one a little bit.
So if you have your own private label and you're very successful on Amazon with your private label, I I wouldn't recommend it yet to go to South America. Now, if you are representing, I don't know, Coca-Cola, or you are representing, I don't know, big international brands, then it's worth it, because a lot of people know about the brand, and it's kind of easier to introduce to a marketplace a brand.
Okay.
You following me?
Yeah, and I guess we can dive into launching a Mercado Libre here in a moment. So, but that is something to consider: is it worth it? Because at least in Mexico, you've got, I'm assuming, a lot of the same levers that you can pull in the U.S. and the most marketplaces where you have PPC and things like that.
Yes.
Okay, so at least on Amazon, you still have the comfort of things operate the same. The rules are going to be pretty similar. When you log into Seller Central, you're just switching a drop down between countries, right?
Correct.
Okay, so then now let's leave the safety and security of Amazon Mexico, because at least it's in Amazon. Now let's start talking into Mercado Libre. So what exactly is Mercado Libre? I think just a lot of people may have heard the name, but they're not really 100% familiar. A lot of people listening maybe, what are you even talking about?
So Mercado Libre, it's the biggest South American marketplace. Their headquarters is in Argentina. They start, I believe, like 1990 something, 98.
Okay.
99. They're growing really good, really fast. The way the platform operates, it's similar to Amazon and eBay at the same time.
Right.
So let me explain that to you. Why similar to Amazon? Because some markets like Argentina, Mexico, Brazil, and now they're implementing in Colombia as well, they have their own fulfillment centers. So you basically send the products to the fulfillment center and then take care of the shipment and almost all the communication with the customer. So that's a plus. They are in the 13 different countries. Not all of them have that. Okay.
Got it.
Only those 4 that I mentioned. 3 and the one that is coming, which is in Colombia. Now, why it's similar to eBay? Because the listings, the way they are created, is an individual listing, just like an eBay. There's no one listing and there's buyers rotating through the buy box. You know,
Got it.
Only, you have your own listing, you put your own image, your own descriptions, and that's the way you have your listing now. Okay. Now, Mercado Libre doesn't have PPC. There's no such a thing. The way they operate is by packages. Okay. So they say, okay, you can choose this package that's gonna have, I don't know, product paths. That's the way they call it. So it's like a product ads. So you can have 100 clicks or 200 clicks. Then you want to have the main banner in the category, or you want to have a banner in the main page. So you have to buy that package. And that package is for 3 months. You test it. You like it, you keep the package. You don't like it, you remove something, you add something. That's the way they work.
Got it. So you're saying they're a little bit behind. This sounds like internet marketing in 2001, kind of. So basically, you get a banner ad. Do you at least get like control of, like, is it based on like keywords or the products or anything like that, or is it just category based?
They have some system that it does it automatically. So let's say you wanna emphasize in my case in the protein. So and you're gonna tell them that, and I don't know what they're doing in the behind scene, but it's nothing on, you cannot control that.
Got it. So it sounds like in some ways it operates like an auto campaign on Amazon, or maybe more likely like a Google Shopping campaign. Whereas with Google Shopping, you don't get to control the keywords. You just say, here you go. And then Google figures it out. And then I'm sure there's probably some ways to assist the algorithm. What is there any other levers you can pull other than buying these like banner ad packages to promote your product?
Social media. Social media, it's very, very good in South America as
Okay.
far as conversion.
Really?
It's
Okay.
not even remotely compared to USA. USA, people kind of saturated with the
Like
sorry, my
Facebook
battery is dead.
ads.
Yes, with the
Uh-huh.
Facebook ads. So it's not working as well. But in South America, people are like buying. They see the ads and they go and they buy. You know, it's have a higher conversion.
Gotcha. Okay. So you were saying earlier you recommend having your own brand now, or having, big brands. So like, for
Correct.
example, people listening can't see this, but I'm holding this dry erase marker by Expo, which I think is a pretty big brand when it comes to dry erase markers.
Okay.
So let's say you didn't have Expo dry erase markers, you just had dry erase markers. Are there ways of getting your private label dry erase markers sold, or is it pretty much people are looking for the brands that maybe they've
In
heard of?
in Mercado Libre
In
or
Mercado Libre.
in Mercado Libre. So they're gonna put the dry marker, you know,
Okay.
and if they're gonna see the recognized brand, that's what they're gonna buy right
Mm-hmm.
away. They're not. It's not like you can again you can do the marketing. You can try to position with the pads, like I told you, with the product ads,
Okay.
and to have your publication in a position where maybe you come out first. You know, I
Uh-huh.
mean that's what you're buying the ads for. You know,
Got
to
it.
try to come out. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're not controlling that, but again, when the publication, the paid publication come out, it's gonna be in the first pages.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's the way you can try to basically maybe compete with the recognized brand. Okay,
Okay.
but again, it's in my case, I already tried, so that's why I'm basically giving you my experience.
Right, right, right.
I'm putting the brand that nobody knows. Maybe it's a good brand, not even my private label, just other brands, because I didn't want to even invest in my private label to push it in those marketplaces. But I get the brand that is not as recognizable, and I try to do all the things that I'm doing for the other brand that is being successful, but it's recognizable brand,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not working as well.
So is it one of those things like the people listening to this, if they're a private label seller, maybe this is be a little bit tougher road to go down as opposed to maybe someone who's selling wholesale who has access to brands that people have heard of?
Correct.
So let's talk through a little bit of what the costs look like. So you had said there's some sort of importation tax, which I'm assuming every country probably has its own importation tax, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you got to figure out what that is, what it costs to get it there. Do you have local distributors you found, or is everything coming from like the U.S. or China and going into those countries for
Well,
Mercado Libre?
in Colombia, our company is a distributor of those brands.
Okay.
So, and we are distributor and sellers in the platforms. But in Mexico, we only do online platforms of those brands. So we only sell through the platform. We don't use any other distributor.
Okay. So if I'm the one that's selling it, so in this case, are you so you're the importer, I guess is my question. So you're importing it in as opposed to purchasing it from the company in the country.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm still doing the import. Yes.
Okay. So you got to figure out what those importation taxes are.
That's what all the brands gonna want you to do.
Right.
They don't want to
Right.
deal.
They don't want to be. They don't
Yes.
want to be on the hook for it.
Yes.
Totally understand that. Okay. So you got to figure that into your costs. But knowing that in most countries, are there some sort of reconciliation where you're paying whether they call it EVA or VAT or whatever, you're paying something at the border and then you get some of it back?
Correct.
Okay. But it's one of those things you probably want to talk to an attorney in that country about that country's specific laws, and knowing that just because it's not that way in Colombia doesn't mean it's going to be that way in Argentina or whatever the case is.
In Argentina, Argentina is one of the biggest markets, Argentina and Brazil, and I haven't tackled into it because the import taxes are insane.
Got it.
we're talking about 100%, 80%.
Oh, wow.
It's like insane.
Don't bring anything into our country.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Exactly. A lot of big brands, what they do, they manufacture in those countries.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So in our case, in our brands that we represent in Colombia and Mexico, they have a manufacturer in Argentina. I mean, they manufacture in Argentina and Brazil because
Gotcha.
the import taxes are.
And these import taxes, they're the same if it's coming from US, China, or, you know, from Brazil. Like, it doesn't matter, or from like another country within South America. So am I right in that? Everything is, well, I mean, I'm sure there's probably exceptions, but for the most part, you're paying a lot of money regardless.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not like you can, because I know sometimes people like to look at like, how do I get around that? Like, maybe it's cheaper if I bring it into Colombia and then bring it into Argentina or something like that. But
yes,
probably
so there is maybe some way to do it, but I don't know. I don't know.
At a certain point, you're at the time spent trying to figure this out versus what's your potential reward for even doing so. So yes. Exactly. Because you only have so much time to figure all this stuff out. So it's probably better to start with certain countries. So, all right. So we got to figure out what our cash flow looks like, both from what we're risking up front and then what we could get back on the back end. But then in between, when it comes to what do the fee structures look like in these countries? Like if I sell something for the equivalent of $20 in whatever their currency is, walk me through kind of what I would have to pay Mercado Libre.
So Mercado Libre depends on the category.
Okay.
It's a 12% commission that they charge, and also they charge. It depends on the size of the product. They charge you the shipping to the customer.
Okay.
Charge you if you do the fulfilled by them. Mm-hmm. They cover half of the shipment. So if it's to give you $5, they're gonna cover 2.5, and you have to pay 2.5.
Oh, really? They cover half of it?
Half of it.
That's pretty nice.
But they also charge in the commission plus the half because they want you to send it to a fulfillment center.
Got it. But Amazon says we're just going to charge you the whole fulfillment fee, and it's 15% or whatever the case is, depending on your category. Okay, so that's interesting. So that helps your margins a little bit. Now, are they, from a cash flow perspective, is it similar to Amazon where it's like, okay, here's your sales, we're subtracting out our fees for mailing and shipping and our commissions, and then they give you the rest? Does it work like that?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not like they give you all the money and then they charge you separately, like on your credit card.
No.
Okay, gotcha. So that's good. So when you take out like,
and they have a. Give me a second to connect here. They have a Mercado Pago, which is just like PayPal. You know, PayPal that have eBay. eBay have PayPal. So they transfer the money to the Mercado Pago, and from there. You transfer to your bank account.
Got it. Now, are you able to pay any, like, let's say you had a company you were working with, let's say you're a lawyer or somebody like that, and you were going to pay them in the local currency. Are you able to do that before switching it to US dollars?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
No, and I have to always, like I mentioned before, it's very, very important that you monitor the currency. So when we have the money in a bank account, we don't just transfer and that's it.
Right.
We wait, we monitor.
Right.
And sometimes it can take, I don't know why it's disconnected. Sometimes it can take a month before we transfer the money.
Got it. Okay. So it takes a month for you to get the money, or sometimes you wait a month?
I have to wait a month.
Okay, gotcha. Just to get more favorable exchange rates. Now, the nice thing is, which for people listening may already have caught on to this, but just to make sure everybody's getting this, is that if the currency fluctuates, you're really not risking, at least in the short term, the entire selling price. It's really whatever money you have left over after fees, after whatever else you pay in the local currency, whether it be the advertising package or your lawyer fees or your taxes you have to pay, whatever that. So it's then whatever you want to bring home to the US or your local country, right?
Correct.
Gotcha. And then when you, is it the Mercado Pay, like their version of PayPal or whatever?
Yeah,
Is that,
Mercado.
gotcha. Do you know roughly what they're charging you for currency conversion?
No. To Mercado Pago is just, it holds the money for you. It's like a bank.
Got it.
You transfer from there to your bank account
Uh-huh.
in the country, and then you transfer from the bank to your bank in USA, and it depends on the current exchange. The bank gives you the exchange.
Right. The reason I asked that is, like, for example, like if Amazon transfers you money from, let's say, Canadian dollars to your US bank account, and Amazon, for the convenience of transferring it, I've always been told by the folks in the currency world that they charge as much as 4%, sometimes even more, for that transaction. So basically, if you had $1,000, you really only have 960 because they're taking out the 4%. Whereas like Payoneer, if you put it into a Payoneer account, they're only charging you 2%. So your $1,000 is now 980, which over time, that adds up quite a bit.
Yeah, in USA, the transfer also from Mexico to USA is 2%.
Okay, 2%. Okay, so that's pretty good. So that sounds about right. And it's one of those things, it never is like labeled. It's just, if you were to compare the rates when they actually transfer it versus like if you go on like Google or xe.com to figure out the exchange rate, it's just not quite as favorable. So that's interesting. All right, so if somebody listening is saying, okay, I like the idea of less competition, finding new customers, and that, they could potentially build this like list of people in other countries for social media, because people, sounds like they're more engaged and more willing to buy off of it, and they're not quite as, for lack of a better word, jaded as we are here in the US.
Yes. And believe it or not, it gives you, so you have two points that gives you an advantage to do international sales. And so one, because if it's your USA seller and you bring in your knowledge to South America marketplace, it gives you huge advantage. First, you're going to be one of the few if there's some American sellers. Second, your expertise is going to trump all the expertise that they might have in South America, because they're just starting and you already have the experience here.
Right.
And you have a good leverage of ranking points with the brands here that you want to do some work in South America that a lot of people don't do. So we represent the biggest brands in supplement area. If we're going to tell them we want to sell on Amazon here in USA, they're probably going to laugh at us, because it's a huge and established process already, But because they know we're good in e-commerce, we're bringing that knowledge to South America, now they're interested, So yeah, that's what I want to mention.
Other good points. So emerging markets, the fact that it's behind the times is actually a good thing, because you're kind of coming like Marty McFly from the future to the past.
Correct.
So you're able to help kind of steer things in a way that maybe people there wouldn't necessarily have, because you have more context.
Correct.
And I'm sure they're probably going to be going in the direction that like Amazon and eBay are going here in the States. So, and the fact that people are starting to warm up to it more. So all sounds like good opportunities if you've got potential products to sell. So where would you say people should start? Because that's a lot to chew off, all these countries. I'm sure you didn't do it all instantaneously. What would be the first one you would say start with?
To start with what country?
Yes.
You're saying?
For Mercado Libre.
In Mercado Libre. So, or Amazon Mexico. I mean, I honestly think because the Amazon Mexico is already in Mexico, it's for a reason, So it's Mexico is more advanced. It's right across the border, and it's very similar to USA when you go there in Mexico. It's You see Office Depot, you see McDonald's, you see, it's very similar to USA, believe it or not. So I think it's the country to start with,
Okay. So start
it's
Amazon Mexico. That makes sense.
exactly.
Now, once you've exhausted expanding into Amazon Mexico, and you're like, I'm going to do Mercado Libre, which, what is that, free store or something like that?
Mercado Libre.
If you were to translate it into English.
Yeah, free store.
Free store. Gotcha. So if you're going to go into free store or freedom store, I guess however it translates, what would be the first country you would go to?
Mexico.
Mexico. Okay. So
Mexico, Mercado Libre.
So, okay. So Mexico, Mercado Libre. Would you recommend starting off fulfilling your orders from Amazon? Like using FBA to fulfill Mercado Libre orders?
Mercado Libre have its own FBA center.
So you would recommend splitting that up. So if you're going to do Amazon FBA, do Amazon FBA and send separate inventory to Mercado Libre, fulfilled by Mercado or whatever they call it.
Yeah, Mercado Envío, they call it.
Okay. Mercado MBO?
Envío, yes.
Okay, cool.
So it's sending or shipment.
Right. So their version of FBA.
Yeah.
So gotcha. So then now we want to leave the safety and security of a country that borders the United States, that Amazon's invested a lot of time and effort and resources into. And now we want to go into the Wild West, so to speak, into another country where we don't have an Amazon to make us feel a little bit better. What's that next one?
The next country, again, depends on the product that you're going to sell and depends on the margins that you have. Because again, I would tackle into countries that have fulfillment centers.
Okay.
So you don't have to deal with the logistic a lot. You just send the product to a fulfillment center of Mercado Libre. So the next one is going to be Argentina. The other one is Brazil. And now they're opening one in Colombia, So
gotcha.
If you want to start, you would start into those countries, because if you're going to go to other countries that don't have the fulfillment center, you will need to have your own fulfillment center or find third-party fulfillment center, which is not a lot of them.
Okay.
So I had to, in Colombia, there's none. I had to have my own.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you've got your own employees at a fulfillment
Yes.
center that you own. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. So Argentina earlier, you said it was like 100%
correct
tax.
That's why I'm talking about the margins. If you can.
Right. So that 100% tax is on the declared value, which is based on how much you paid, not how much you're going to sell it for, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So Argentina is a little suspect of whether or not that might work for a lot of products. Then Brazil, is Brazil a good one? Or are you in Brazil, or did you say that was another one you've kind of like held off on?
I held off on because of the import tax.
So it's got another high import tax.
Yes.
So Colombia, although it doesn't have a Mercado MBO, is that one you would start looking into? Like, is it coming very soon, or is it like more rumors that they might be doing it?
Supposedly it's coming next month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like official communication from the company?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you could start the process, because I would imagine it's not going to be a week later. If you start talking to a lawyer in Colombia, you're going to have all your registrations and whatever you need to do for Colombia done, right?
Correct.
Got it. So you could start that now and then start figuring out what is your process going to look like.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right. So Colombia would be kind of our next spot. And then after that, maybe start getting into other countries that either have high import taxes like Brazil and Argentina, or some of the other countries that maybe you have to find a 3PL or whatever the case is. Where might you go next?
Panama, we already have registered in Panama, and we're planning on getting to Ecuador. The good thing about those two is it's dollar-based.
Got it.
It's dollar-based, but it's not a lot of sales tractions yet.
Got it.
But it's dollar-based that is going to help us dealing with the currency.
So people are paying in US dollars, or their currency is linked to the US dollar?
They pay in US dollars.
Oh, they pay in US dollars. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's good. That makes it
Yeah.
a little easier because you get 2% or whatever back on whatever you would have transferred. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay.
Correct.
So that's definitely interesting. Awesome. Well, this has been an interesting conversation about a whole world south of here that most people don't even think about, or they think about and they're like, it's not going to work. So any other tips you might have for someone who's looking to go into south of the border?
Again, like I mentioned before, if you're really interested in getting to South America, the number one thing to be successful is to have recognizable brand to start with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, going private label, it's not there yet. You know, it's not there yet. The country, the countries are not prepared for that yet, or the platform, I would say. And when you get into those countries, also your margins have to be good. You know, very healthy margins because of the currencies. So those are two main things that I've been struggling with, you know, and anybody who gonna start, that's what they have to focus on, you know.
Gotcha. What would you say would be a healthy margin to even consider it?
Have to be higher than 30%.
Okay,
sure.
gotcha. That was actually the number I was kind of thinking in my head. So we're on the same page there.
If your margin is like 20%, 15%, it's no good.
Gotcha. And you're even probably saying this based on the transportation costs getting it into the country too, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha. All right. Well, this has been an interesting conversation here. So if somebody wanted to follow you or reach out to, like, where do I even go from here? So where would they go?
So the best way to contact me is through Instagram. Okay. It's Aleksejs Leal, the same name that I have. Well, across all the platforms, that's my name, Aleksejs Leal. You can look into Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, which I'm trying to improvise now. So
look at you. You're getting the message out there using TikTok. Interesting thing is I actually have a TikTok person I'm going to be interviewing here shortly, I think next week. So interesting topic. So, all right. So for the sake of people that are wondering, how do you spell Aleksejs Leal?
It's Aleksejs, and my last name Leal, which is Leal.
Gotcha. So that's
now you can put my name everywhere, and you're gonna. I mean, as long as you know how to spell it, you're gonna be able to find it because it's a unique name. There's nobody else with the same name.
Gotcha. It's not like John Smith where there's a few.
Exactly.
Gotcha. All right. Well, good deal. Well, this is a fun conversation, so I really appreciate having you, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kevin. And anytime I can help, I'm here.
Good deal. All right. Thanks, Alex.
Bye-bye.